Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the strikes on Rafah that killed dozens of civilians were a tragic mistake, adding that an investigation is underway. Israel is facing new condemnation for the strikes that local health officials said killed at least 45 Palestinians, including displaced people living in tents that were engulfed by fire. Israel is the target of surging international criticism over its war with Hamas, with even some of its allies, its closest allies, including the U.S., condemning civilian deaths in Gaza. The airstrike came just hours after Hamas fired a barrage of rockets from Gaza into Israel. The Israel Defense Forces releasing video today that it says shows troops operating in the Gaza Strip. The United Nations top court ordered Israel to end its military offensive in Rafah last week, but stopped short of demanding a ceasefire for the entire enclave. However, the ruling is largely symbolic. Israel has portrayed Rafah as Hamas's last major stronghold in Gaza. With more on the situation in Rafah and the Israel-Hamas war, we're joined by John Allen, the former Canadian ambassador to Israel. Thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks for having me.
I wonder what your take is when you're hearing Netanyahu characterize what we've been seeing in Rafah today as a tragic mistake.
Well, I'm glad, frankly, that he acknowledged it as a tragic mistake and says that it'll be investigated, because last night it sounded more like it was part of an effort by Israel to attack militants, uncover weapons, and at that time there was no apology. I think this is a recognition by the Prime Minister that what has happened is exactly what the West, the Americans, the UN has been warning, that if the operation in Rafah continues, there'll be innocent lives lost, and we've now seen that.
And I wonder if Netanyahu's reaction is a sign that he is hearing this mounting international outcry.
I think probably that's the case, because, as you mentioned, the International Court of Justice ruled just a few days ago that the actions in Rafah should cease, and that more humanitarian aid should be flowing in. And an incident like this is frankly contrary to that. The aid won't be coming in because of the security situation, and hasn't been. And now we have these deaths. So I think he's reacting appropriately, but too late.
You know, we are months into this conflict. I wonder if you're seeing the arc of the war changing at all.
Well, Netanyahu and his right-wing ministers continue to say that they want to deal a fatal blow to Hamas, that they want to get the political and military leaders who they've been seeking for 8 months. And of course, there is the question of the hostages. I understand that the negotiations that were supposed to start again for the hostages have now been postponed, because Hamas says they won't join them given what's just happened. It's hard to predict. I once thought the war would be over in January, and needless to say, I was quite wrong. I just don't know how long Netanyahu and these two ministers want to prosecute it, given that his own military leaders have said that wiping Hamas out, both militarily and ideologically, is simply not on. It's not going to happen. So at what point do they decide enough is enough? And I'm not sure.
John Allen, the former Canadian ambassador to Israel, thanks so much for sharing your perspective with us today.